we are going to discuss about fiber splicing, splicing single mode fibers and optical fiber connectors today. So first is about fiber splicing. Fiber splicing is a permanent or semi-permanent joint between the two fibers. So once the splicing is done, we cannot uh, remove the joints between those fibers. So it is a permanent joint, or it is a semi-permanent joint between any two fibers. So the splicing can be done in any of these three methods or three techniques. So fiber splicing includes fusion splicing technique, V-grooved mechanical splicing, elastic tube splicing. So these are the three different splicing techniques what we are going to use. So first we look into fusion splicing technique. So in the fusion splicing, fusion splicers are made by thermally bonding together the fibers and prepared fiber ends as shown in the diagram. So here in this fusion splicing, the fibers which are to be spliced, it means the fibers which are to be joined are placed on two different holders. They are termed as fiber holders, and since small adjustments has to be done, micro adjustments or manipulation has to be done in order to move the fiber so that it can be properly aligned. So that is done by using this micro manipulatable fiber holders. So these are the fiber holders which can be used to adjust the position of the fibers, and we are making use of the electric arc or a laser welder or a welding device which is used to join these two optical fibers. So the fibers which are to be spliced are placed here, and using a laser or electric arc we are going to heat this, so that we call it as thermally bonding. So we are going to heat it and we are going to bond these two fibers together, and these fibers are always fused or spliced depending on the prepared fiber ends. It means whenever we want to join the optical fibers, the fiber end faces are to be properly prepared. Properly prepared in the sense the fiber end faces are to be made smooth, and they are made perpendicular to the fiber core axis, and they are to be polished. Okay, so it should be smooth flat surface which is the end of the fiber or fiber end faces. So this is how the fiber end is prepared, or the fiber end is polished, and the fiber end is made flat and smoother. So it is placed on a curved uh, surface, and the fiber which is to be prepared is placed on that, and using a knife edge we are going to crack the propagation of the light into this, so that it has to be uniformly designed throughout its length. So the fiber has to be cleaved, and a pressure, or what we call it as a tension, tensile stress we call it as, so that is applied onto the fiber, based on which the fiber is going to be prepared. So this is how the initial setting is done for an electrode or electric arc of the splicing method, and these are the fibers which are to be spliced, and the arrangement is done such that the smooth surface are prepared for the fiber, and in the next method or next process the fiber ends are pressed together by using an electrode or electric arc. Then the fiber is spliced. So you can see that in this case the two fibers are spliced, and the alignment is done by the use of micro manipulatable fiber holder. So that is used to align these two fibers in terms of axial misalignment, or in terms of the longitudinal separation. So these are the things which are to be taken care when the fibers are to be spliced. So in this method, the fiber ends are first pre-aligned and butted together. So it means that first alignment of these fibers which are to be spliced are done and they are joined together. So butted is nothing but joining together. So this is done either in a grooved fiber holder or under a microscope with micro manipulators. So this is what we do. This is done using a grooved fiber holder or under a microscope using the micro manipulators. Then the butt joint is then heated with an electric arc. Once the joint is done, it is heated with an electric arc or a laser pulse so that the fiber ends are melted and hence they are joined together or bonded together. So this technique can produce very low splice losses and it is very lesser, that is approximately equal to 0.06 decibels. So that is a loss which is going to be produced by this splicing techniques. And we look into the disadvantages of this. So surface damage can be due to handling. So that is whenever we use it in a micro manipulatable fiber holder, the fiber holders may damage the surface of the optical fibers. So that is one of the drawback of this particular method. Then surface defect growth created during heating. So that is the other issue. Whenever we heat the optical fibers, the surface or the optical fiber ends may have some defects, may produce some defect growth, or it may damage the fiber. So that is one of the drawback. Then residual stresses induced near the joint as a result of changes in the chemical composition. So whenever we heat any material, normally the residues are left out whenever we heat the material which is a plastic or glass in this optical fiber. So whenever we do that, there are some residues which are left out. So due to this materials or residues, there is change in the chemical composition of the fiber. So which occurs from the material melting can produce a weak splice. So even though the fiber are spliced, but it may be a weaker splice due to the change in the chemical composition, which is due to the residues which are left out during the process of melting. Then so those were the disadvantages related to the fusion splicing. So we are moving with another technique which is called as V-grooved mechanical splicing. So in this V-grooved mechanical splicing process, the fiber ends which are prepared, first initially we have to prepare the fiber ends and they are butted together or they are placed together in a V-shaped groove. So we call it as a substrate. So this is a V-shaped substrate or V-groove substrate on which the fibers which are to be spliced are placed in this manner, and a adhesive is applied onto this point where the fiber are to be spliced. So we can see that the fiber is epoxed with the adhesive. It means that we are going to use an adhesive to join these two fibers, and once it is done, we are going to make an arrangement of a flat glass plate which can be placed onto that so that it can be properly aligned during the process of splicing. So they are bonded together with an adhesive or are held by means of a cover plate. So this is the two possible way of splicing the fiber using V-groove method. So the V-shaped channel can be either a grooved silicone or a plastic or even a ceramic or a metal substrate. So this may be the V-shaped channel which can be used in this splicing process. So the splice loss mainly depends on the fiber size and the eccentricity. So here we are going to not consider the process of melting, so that there is no question of any residues which are left after melting. Here we are just using an adhesive, and the fiber splice mainly depends on the size and eccentricity of the fiber. So if the size of the fiber is more, it may result in a more splice loss or a loss due to the process of splicing. And eccentricity, so that is the area of the fiber core or the structure of the optical fiber based on which the losses may change. So that is the second method. Coming to the third, we have elastic tube splicing. So the elastic tube splicing is done in which we are making use of an elastic tube. And due to the usage of elastic tube, automatically the device will perform lateral, longitudinal and angular alignment. So earlier we have discussed about the three alignment losses. One is lateral or axial, longitudinal or separation, and angular misalignment. So these misalignment can be automatically corrected by this device because we are making use of an elastic tube. With this device, it automatically performs these three types of alignments. So there is no question of having any misalignments in the fiber splicing process. So it splices the multimode fibers to give the losses in the same rate as the commercial fusion splicer. So this is the best method of splicing process, best method of splicing the fibers considering the loss. So and also we require very less equipment and very uh, less amount of skills are needed to perform this splicing process. The splice mechanism is basically a tube which is made up of an elastic material. So we can see that within the elastic material we have two fibers which are being inserted. So one is the fiber which is the fiber which is emitting fiber, the other is a receiving fiber. So that we are joining these two fibers with this misalignments uh, to not occur because the device elastic is going to automatically adjust these kind of alignments. Automatically it does these kind of alignments without any misalignment. So we can see that the axial alignment is done using this, and we see that there are tapered openings through which the fibers can be inserted on either sides of the fiber. So the central hole diameter is slightly smaller than that of the fiber. So the fiber which are to be inserted is inserted into the central hole material of the elastic material, which is guided by this tapered opening. And this is similar to the capillary tube size, which can be lesser than the size of the radii of these fibers which are to be spliced, and they are tapered on each end for easy insertion of the fiber. So they are tapered for easy insertion of these two fibers which are to be spliced. So when a fiber is inserted, it expands the whole diameter so that the elastic material exerts a symmetrical force on the fiber. So whenever we want to insert the optical fibers on either sides of the elastic material, the elastic material gets expanded very easily in comparison with the other materials. So we are making use of the elastic material for splicing. This symmetry feature follows an accurate and automatic alignment of the axis. So that we have seen automatic alignment of optical fibers are done by using this method. So based on this symmetric feature, the losses are very less in this elastic tube splicing process. So among these three splicing process, the elastic tube splicing is the very good method of splicing the fibers. Then next is about splicing single mode fiber. So in case of multi-mode fibers, in single mode fibers, the lateral or axial offset misalignment will have a most serious amount of loss which exists. So the loss also depends on the shape of the propagating modes or the electromagnetic waves which are propagating in the fiber. So it is described as the loss between the identical fibers, and the loss is described by the expression minus 10 log of exponential of minus d by omega w the whole square, where w is referred to as spot size. So we have discussed it earlier, spot size, and mode field radius, and d is the lateral displacement. So spot size is the mode field radius, and d is the lateral displacement in a fiber. Similarly, we can have angular misalignment in a single mode fibers. The loss at wavelength is expressed as minus 10 log of exponential of minus pi n2 w theta divided by lambda the whole square, where n2 is the refractive index of the cladding, theta is the angular misalignment which occurs in radians, and w is the mode field radius. Then if there is a gap while splicing the fiber, then the loss can be incurred in these fibers represented by minus 10 log of 64 n square, n1 square, n3 square, and n1 plus n3 power 4 into g square plus 4. So these are the three different types of misalignment which may occur in an optical fiber, and these are the losses which are associated with these kind of losses which occurs in the process of splicing. Then we move on to optical fiber connectors. So these optical fiber connectors are the devices which are used to join the optical fibers in a temporary way. So first we look into the requirements. What are the principal requirements of a good connector design? So we have some principal requirements in selecting a design, in selecting a connector for design. So we say it as a good connector design. The first requirement for a good connector is it should have very less coupling losses. So it is the first requirement which has to be satisfied for a good connector, that is low coupling loss. So the connectors what we are using, it should have very less losses, so that it should have very good tolerance to the joining process, and the losses should not change whenever we have several connects and disconnects. So whenever we try to remove the joints uh, and whenever we try to join it again, so as and when we are going to do this process n number of times, that is connecting and removing the connections or disconnecting it, so the losses should not depend on the time or how many times we are going to connect and disconnect. The loss should remain the same. Next is interchangeability. So connectors of the same type must be compatible from one manufacturer to the other. So this is very much required. So whenever we want to replace any sort of connectors which may be of a same type, but if it is from a different manufacturer, it is very difficult to interchange. But in this connector design, we see that one of the requirement that is met by the connector, very good connector, is that it has got a very good interchangeability. Then ease of assembly. So whenever a service technician is available, he should easily be able to install any sort of connection using a connector in any field or environments. Then that is in a location other than the connection factory. So wherever you are supposed to service it, you can easily do that. Then low environmental sensitivity. So conditions which are which may be temperature, dust, moisture, or any other condition should have a small effect on connector loss variation. So if there is any problem with the high temperature, low temperature, or moisture content which is more in the atmosphere, or dust available or present in the atmosphere, should have a very small effect on the connector loss variation. So it should not have very high losses due to these environmental factors. So it should be very sensitive. Then low cost and reliable construction. So whenever we say that the connector is used, we look into a cost. So whether the cost of the device or a connector is less or not. So it should be of very less cost, and it should be reliable construction. So it should be highly reliable, and it should be very less. The cost should be very less. Ease of connection. So generally one should be able to mate and demate the connector by using hands. So there is no other equipment which are required in order to make a connection or in order to break a connection here. So that any connection between the optical fibers, any joining between the optical fibers using a connector can be easily done by simple hands. So we call it as mate and demate the connector in a link. So if I consider the types of connectors, we can have three different types of connectors, which is based on the screw-on mount push-pull configuration. So there are three types. One is straight sleeve connector, tapered sleeve connector, and expanded beam connector. So these straight sleeve connector and tapered sleeve connector are mainly dependent on two different alignment sleeves. One is a straight alignment sleeve, one is a tapered alignment sleeve. Whereas in expanded beam connector, we see that there are lenses which are placed between the transmitter and the receiving fiber. So we look into that. So one is the straight sleeve connector. So these connectors are very popular butt joint alignment designs, which are used in both multimode step index fiber as well as in braided index fiber. So in a straight sleeve connector, the length of the sleeve, so this is the length of the sleeve and the guide ring on the ferrules. So these are the material called as ferrules, which are present on both sides of the alignment sleeve into which the fibers are inserted. So on the ferrules determine the end separation of the fiber. So the fibers which are to be joined are placed here, and using the alignment sleeve from the top and bottom of the ferrule, which is guided by this guide ring, it is adjusted so that the fiber gets properly aligned and the fibers are joined using this alignment sleeve connector. Similarly, this is a straight sleeve connector. We can observe it from the diagram. Similar way, we have one more concept that is called as a tapered sleeve connector, in which the operation of holding the fiber or inserting the fiber in a ferrule and making an adjustment using an alignment sleeve for any misalignments are same, but it depends entirely on the type of the alignment sleeve what we are going to use. That is a tapered sleeve device. So instead of straight sleeve, we have a tapered sleeve alignment device. That is the only difference what we find in straight sleeve and tapered sleeve connectors. So these are the different connectors which are available. So this is how the connector is actually used in joining the fibers. So the biconical connector uses a tapered sleeve to accept and guide the tapered ferrules. The sleeve length and the guide rings maintain a given fiber end separation. So that is what we see that in the diagram. The sleeve length and the guided rings maintain a given fiber end separation. So that is what is done using the guided rings. Then we have expanded beam connector. So in the expanded beam connector, we see that there are two different fibers used here. One is called as a transmitting fiber, the other is a receiving fiber, and the light which is obtained from the transmitted fiber has to be coupled into a receiving fiber. So this is not directly done. Instead, we are placing two lenses which are called as a collimating lens or focusing lenses, one onto a transmitting fiber, one onto a receiving fiber, so that the light from the transmitting fiber is focused onto this collimating or uh, focusing lens, and the light beam gets expanded. So they are termed as expanded beams, and these beams are focused onto this collimating or focusing lens, which is connected onto the other side of the receiving fiber, so that the receiving fiber will accept all the light from this collimating lens or the focusing lens. So this is how the connector is used. So this is the entire expanded beam connector used between these two transmitting and receiving fibers. So it employs lenses on the ends of the fibers. These lenses either collimate the light emerging from the transmitting fiber. So we see that here. So the light is emerging from the transmitting fiber, or focus the expanded beam, or focus this expanded beam onto the core of the receiving fiber. So this expanded beam is focused onto the receiving fiber through this again collimating or receiving focusing lens. So the fiber to lens distance is equal to the focal length of the lens. So this is very important while we place the lens along with the fiber. So the distance we have to maintain between the lens and the fiber, and this distance is considered as the focal length of the lens. So this is equal to the focal length of the lens. Next, coming to the advantages of this, since the beam is collimated, separation of the fiber ends may take place within the fiber or within the connector. So thus the connector is less dependent on lateral alignment. So this is a very good advantage of using the collimating or focusing lenses in this expanded beam connectors. So whenever we want to see that the beam is collimated, there is a separation of the fiber ends which may take place within the connector. So that is a advantage of this, so that the connector is less dependent on any lateral alignments. Then optical processing elements. So optical processing elements such as beam splitters and switches can easily be inserted into the expanded beam between the fiber ends. So that is the advantage of using this connector, in which the processing elements, which are beam splitters and switches, can be easily inserted into this expanded beam between the fiber ends. So that is the advantage of using this particular fiber connector.